Hi, this is Scott Anthony, and I'm here with a great friend of mine, Maurice Lowman, and we want to just talk about a few things. And one of the things we want to touch on is addiction and mental health. And there's a lot of things that's been happening this month, and with the loss of a friend over addiction, it really touches our heart to try to come out and to reach out to you guys and give you some information about some of the experiences we've had and how it may be able to help you. So I want to let Maurice introduce himself and tell you a little bit about himself.
Happy Wednesday evening, everyone. Thanks for having me on, Scott. It's a privilege and an honor. Scott and I go way back to when we were yay big. My name's Maurice from East Providence, Rhode Island, Maurice Lowman. I'm a sales and advertising professional and also a community builder in the ultra running endurance space, as well as an active voice and face in the recovery and addiction prevention space. It's a huge passion of mine to speak openly about my story. Mental health plays a big part of it. Mental health is such a huge thing to talk about these days, not just in men, but in women and children and everybody, how important it is. And it took me many years to grasp that. I sit here today as a grateful, recovering alcoholic and drug addict with close to 11 years of clean time and sobriety time. But once again, it took me many years to get to this point. So very excited to chat with Scott tonight, and hopefully all of you all will listen and grab something out of this. Once again, we go way back and we definitely have some cool stories to share.
So, Maurice, I wanted to ask you, when did your story start in addiction?
That's a question I get very often. Where do I feel like my addiction began? In junior high, I was one of those kids that would say, I'll never do drugs. That's not for me. I was interested in academics. I love sports, even though I was never good at any of them. But I love sports. I love my friends. I love riding bikes, things like that a normal junior high student should be into. High school, same thing. I wanted to talk to girls. I wanted to buy cool clothes. I wanted to, be accepted and stuff like that. And I never ever want to blame my addiction on peer pressure. Um, Even in high school, I felt very strongly that I would not try drugs and alcohol. And then by senior year, I had experienced with, and I'm not a medical professional. I speak from my own life experiences. So my story is my own, and it does not apply to everybody's story or everybody's life or experience, but it's just from mine. Marijuana was my gateway drug. As soon as I experienced with smoking weed in high school, it wasn't enough. I wanted to experiment with drinking. I wanted to experiment with the drinking and weed combination. Once I found out that there were things like party pills and pain pills, I was ready to experiment with those. And after high school, I I went from being an honor roll student to barely graduating high school on the honor roll. I did graduate high school on the honor roll, but I'm just not to go all over the place. But this is where my story started, and I just surrounded myself in the wrong. I don't want to blame other people because it was always my own decisions, but I was not chasing 4-year academic goals. I was not chasing sports goals. I was not chasing personal passion goals. I was chasing a lifestyle that I thought was appealing at the time. I always had a job, most of the time 2 jobs, and I immediately was introduced to a street hustling life where I was using and selling all sorts of substances, whether it was mushrooms, acid, ecstasy, cocaine, marijuana. And when I tell these stories, it's not to glorify any of that lifestyle or glorify any of that party style substance abuse. It's just my story, and I continue to stay very transparent about it in the hopes to touch somebody, that somebody can relate and know that I'm not just sitting here speaking. I'm sitting here speaking from experience. Immediately, 18, 19, 20 years old, I'm in that lifestyle, trying to hustle on the streets, working a full-time job, lying to my friends and family about what I'm really doing, because using things like cocaine and ecstasy, it may seem fun and cool at the time, but it's not something that you always share with everybody, and it's not something that is widely accepted. It started to hinder my progress as a professional. I lost jobs. I lost trust. I lost relationships. It hindered my progress as a young man, having not bought a house yet, having not owned my own vehicle until, you know, and not just to talk about material things, but these are the things I look back on and realize that I was not doing some of the things that I could have been doing if I wasn't introduced and kind of fully immersed in that lifestyle. So at a very young age, in my early 20s, I knew that I had a problem. I walked into a local Kodak clinic and I had a full-time job. I had health insurance. I said, my name's Maurice, here's my health insurance. I have a drug problem, I want to stop. And they were willing to help. They signed me up for group sessions, and I just did not embrace it fully. I did not accept the fact that I needed to surrender use. I would show up buzzed. I would show up under the influence of alcohol. I would show up under the influence of weed. I'd go outside to smoke a cigarette, and then sometimes I'd actually go outside to use cocaine when I was supposed to be in this group therapy session and group counseling session to stay away from substance abuse. So that didn't last. I was right back to the same lifestyle of using and selling. And I was an active user for 8 to 10 years, constantly going from one job to the next, cleaning my act up for long enough to get a new job, do well at that job for them to build some trust in me, do well enough at that job to be known as a guy that can show up on time, be reliable, be productive, and then I would just squander those opportunities. I was a young 23, 24 years old, and I was up for promotions that I never got because I never followed through with what they expected from somebody at that level, because I was either hungover or started to be unreliable. So that's my story. Fast forward, and all of the things that you think are never going to happen to you happened to me. So the drug use escalated, continued to lose jobs, ended up doing jail time on multiple occasions, and like things like 30 days in jail, 60 days in jail became a routine, and I was just so, not numb might not be the right word, but I just accepted it where I should not have accepted it. And the drug use escalated. It turned into some hardcore stuff like crack cocaine and just the worst of the worst. I use mantras and hashtags and lines about like, you know, I'm grateful to be here because the darkest corners of addiction, I really was there. So I speak from experience, and not to keep going all over the place, but just trying to paint that picture where the things that you think you'll never do, they end up happening.
I just want to ask you a question, Maurice. With your story and everything you've been through, and I know you haven't told your full story. We got most of it. But for the addict that's in the street and feels that they're in a dark place, they're hopeless, and they're going to continue their run, right? Because addicts, they're not going to stop, right? But say they're in that place, and as you being in the place of the same experience, what information could you give somebody to be like, okay, you're in that dark place, you have nothing, nothing's left. What advice would you give them? What would be able to give them some help on the turning the key?
The want to get clean and the want for a better life has to be stronger than the want to get the buzz, to get the high, to continue. I say things like, I was walking around in regret and sorrow, but now I'm looking forward to tomorrow. So the message there is, I want the addict that's currently struggling to know that tomorrow can be so much better without the use of drugs. Is it going to be easy? Heck no. Is it going to be difficult? Heck yes. You have to start day one, hour one, and stop using. If there's not a shelter, if there's not a program, if there's not a friend that trust you enough to let you in their house, to when you say that you want to give up, you just have to stop using. It's the only way. I sit here very grateful because I always had the self-awareness, knowing that I put myself in these low places, and the only way to get to these high places would be to stop using. And I stopped using 11 years ago, but it was not easy. The first week wasn't easy. The second week wasn't easy. I want people that are struggling to know that you have to have hope. You have to have belief in yourself. You have to see, not to sound cliche, you have to see the light at the end. Day one is not going to be sunshine and rainbows, and neither is day two, and neither is day three. You will see people will start to reach out and want to help you. Opportunities will start to happen. Change your daily habits. If your daily habits include going to the liquor store and smoking cigarettes and smoking weed and sniffing coke or whatever it is, and I don't want this to just be about solely addiction, because no matter what you're going through in life, whether it's depression, anxiety, you have to believe in yourself and have a positive attitude and take positive steps in the right direction. My first step in the right direction was to remove myself from the situation where everybody I was around was using and drinking. Um, it's easier said than done. It took me multiple attempts. I sit here very grateful to be alive, very grateful to have all of my mental and emotional capacity, and it's not easy. So to the addict that's still struggling, believe in yourself, ask for help, see that there is a much more beautiful life out there for you when you are not using. For me, there was never moderation. There was never, I can't just party on the weekends and then be productive during the week, because my weekends turned into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday turned into me getting fired, getting thrown out of an apartment, getting broken up with if I was in a relationship. So the list goes on and on and on. But to drive that point home, don't give up hope. Believe in yourself. You are worth getting clean. The people in your life want you to be clean.
Guys, I just want to say that there are resources out there that would help people. One of them is Adult and Teen Challenge. They have them in New England. They're nationwide. You can Google New England Teen Challenge. They have an amazing adult program, men's and women. We have the Providence Rescue Mission. There's a bunch
I'm a
of
graduate of the Providence Rescue Mission.
there's a bunch of resources that are available that work. Um, and one of the things that I want to say, Maurice, is that what's going on now with the huge fentanyl in Rhode Island, which is it's very scary. So one thing I want you guys to take serious is, like, guys, if you're getting help, you can't go back. It's not an option. The reason why it's not an option is what an addict usually does is they'll use 3 grams of cocaine a day, maybe every 2 days, maybe less. But then they get clean 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Now their body doesn't have that chemical in it anymore. Now you go back and you backslide, or you fall back. You go back into grabbing 3.5 grams of cocaine. You start using again. It's mixed with the fentanyl. What happens to your body? It shuts down and it dies. Guys, when you're in recovery, you cannot go back. Your body is not going to be able to um, process the same amount of drug or alcohol that it did before you was clean, and it could cost you losing your life. And I just want to make sure that you guys all keep that in mind. Drugs is not it's not something to play with, and especially this ain't in the '80s when everything we have different chemicals that are inside the weed, the cocaine, the I don't even think that heroin even exists anymore. It's just fentanyl. In parties, people just want fentanyl. It's killing our youth. It's killing everybody. And it's something that we really need to take serious. And then another thing, for the people that are out there watching us and that you're not an addict, you need to not judge addicts for their behavior. They need to be held accountable for the decisions they make. But we need to be sensitive, knowing that this person who's dealing with this addiction, that is not the person who they actually are, that the addiction has changed them into becoming this monster that was, it's a terrible,
So to speak on that, once again, I'm not a medical professional, and you could sit up here and debate it all day whether substance abuse is a disease. Some people feel it is, some people feel it's not. I know from personal experience that drugs turned me into a person that my parents didn't raise me to be, that my friends didn't expect me to be, that my loved ones did not expect me to be, that I look back and I can't believe some of the things that I would do when I was in active addiction, whether it was just alcohol, whether it was weed, whether it was cocaine, whether it was crack, whether it was heroin, whether it was crystal methamphetamine. And all of these things I speak so lightly about because I'm so far removed from them. I was literally the guy that was like, that will never happen to me. I would never smoke a crack pipe. I would never put a needle in my arm. I would never hang out with a drug addict. And it sounds crazy. So when we sit here and talk, especially to the youth, I have such a passion for the youth. And my story is my story. Not everybody is going to smoke weed on the weekend and turn into a drug addict. That's not a fact. It's not going to happen to everybody. But there is a huge, huge percentage of the youth that are going to think that marijuana and alcohol are okay, and it's going to spiral into something else. They're going to think that doing a few lines at a party is okay. Will it be laced with fentanyl? You don't know. It's not worth the risk. And it's not just about the fentanyl. It's about, I can't tell you enough, drugs kill dreams, drugs kill ambition, drugs kill relationships, drugs let your family down. You have people that love you and people that care about you, and never mind just yourself. You were put on this planet, whether you believe in the universe, whether you believe in Jesus Christ, you were put on this planet to be a beautiful human being and to spread love and to spread kindness and not to get caught up in this stuff. I get so fired up about it because I see it where people just think it's only a party, it's only this. And I was that guy where I was like, I'm just partying. I work hard. I justified it. When I think about my addiction, I think of the words justification and entitlement, because I felt entitled where I worked my butt off all week. You can't tell me that I can't party this weekend. You can't tell me that I can't drink and I can't buy a bag of Coke. You can't tell me that I can't go sell bags at the bar, because that's what I wanted to do. I had that attitude. I'm very fortunate to have made it out. I've lost more than a dozen friends to alcohol and drug related deaths. I see it happen all the time. There was a point where I went to 3 funerals within 18 months, and they were all young men that had graduated the rehab program with me at one point, that had all gotten their life together and had all decided that one weekend wouldn't be that bad, whether it was alcohol, whether it was crack, whether it was heroin. And some of these words may sound super harsh and you're like, that's never going to happen to me. That's never going to happen to me. I'm never going to get into hardcore drugs. Addiction will bring you there. Addiction does not discriminate. If you're a family that has a loved one that's struggling with addiction, obviously you don't want to enable them. You don't want to hand them money when you know that they're not going to do what they're supposed to do with the money. But you don't want to give up hope. You don't want to stop loving them. You don't want to stop meeting them where they're at. Shout out to Project Weber and to Jonathan and Richie that would do street outreach and see me on the streets and say, Maurice, you're better than this. We want you to get back to the man that we know you can be. We're not going to give you money, but we'll buy you food. We'll give you a clean shirt. You don't look good. You deserve to look good. You deserve to be clean. You deserve to be sober. Your family wants you sober. Your children want you sober. Those were the messages that worked the most for me, for people meeting me and not judging me and letting me know that I was still Maurice. I was still this great guy that people loved and cared about. I just had to get rid of the drugs and alcohol. Day one is not going to be easy, and neither is day two. And I know I'm repeating myself, but you just have to ask for help. Families, don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. Tell them that they're worth it. Tell them that you're there for them. Obviously enabling and giving money and cell phones and cars and apartments. All of those things come into play. And I know you've seen the television shows and all of that stuff, the interventions and all of that. But enabling isn't going to help. Everybody's rock bottom is different. Some people will never face jail time. Some people will never face a DUIs because they won't get caught. Some people will never face being homeless, so they just don't get it. Maybe someone really does need to have their freedom or their apartment or their car taken away. If that's a situation that you're in that you have control of, sometimes people need to have those things taken away to realize that there's no future in alcohol or drugs.
Guys, so I want to just thank Maurice for coming here and touching on this very serious subject. We'll be doing another podcast on mental health. Before you go, I just want to make sure that I give a little tips to barbers out there. Barbers, we are very talented human beings that spend a lot of time creating behind the barber chair. With diet and lots of exercise, you can be very healthy. But there are a lot of barbers that with our lifestyle, we're on the go, we're in the shop all day long, we're ordering fast food, we're not drinking enough water, we're not working out because we're spending 14, 15 hours a day in the barbershop. Our body starts to get wore down. Some people lead to marijuana, they smoke marijuana in between haircuts. Some people lean onto pills to try to get that pain going. And that's where it all starts, guys. we need to stay healthy, we need to eat well, we need to exercise, we need to stay away from trying to look for other resources outside of being healthy to try to take care of our body. And as we know that Maurice is an example of what it does. He went from living in the streets, smoking crack, and doing every kind of drug you can think of under the earth, and he ended up changing that over to running, to giving his life to running, and that was his exercise. That was his outlet. Guys, we need to look for an outlet. Feel free to inbox us. This is going to be on our YouTube channel, In the Cut. And any questions you have, feel free to respond in the comments, and we're gonna do another one on mental health. This is not our last time together. There's so much. This was a kind of a serious interview, but we have a lot of funny.
We have some funny stories to
that
share.
we want to share, and the only reason why this one is so serious is because we both just took a big hit and a loss on a great friend of ours, and the reason why we wanted to come out tonight and give you this information is because we wanted to do it in his memory, and also try to stop the next person for this happening to.
So one of my favorite podcasters, I'm going to quote him, Michael Chernow, and he literally says he's lived life on both sides of the tracks, and you have to replace the bad habits with good habits. It was a miracle. I sit here today being a miracle, but I had to. My brain does not. The addictive personality has not left. I've replaced all of those old habits of the liquor store and the cigarettes and the trying to be a hustler and the chasing the crack pipe and chasing, all of that stuff, whether it was coke, crack, whatever it was, with healthy habits, the gym, the yoga studio, the running, all of my mantras, like running the streets that used to run me. I run the Boston Marathon for charity now, raising money for recovery charities. And that Boston Marathon is run on the same course where I was once evicted, lost my job, became homeless, and was still addicted to drugs. So to run those streets on the same streets where I overcame all that stuff, it's a blessing, it's a gift, and it's my opportunity to show others, no matter what curveball life throws at you, whether it's family loss, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's the loss of the job. When I lost my job 3 years into sobriety, it rocked my world, but I said, you can't not be true to yourself. You can't be Mr. Positive and Grateful and then just go to the liquor store or go to the drug dealer because you lost your job. I had a structure in place. I had a process in place. I still had my running. I still had my fitness community. I still had things to do every day. The social media community, if you use it as a positive tool. I still had all of these positive habits in place, so when I lost my job, it didn't turn me back to the old Maurice. When I lost a loved one, when we lost my son's mother, it didn't turn me back to the old Maurice because I had a structure in place. You have to replace the bad habits with good habits. Not everybody's going to want to run. Not everybody's going to want to lift weights. You have to find something that you love and you're passionate about. Family, travel, children, whatever it is, something that you're passionate about that can replace the old habits so you can get out of that lifestyle.
Thank you. We'll see you next week on mental health. Check us out, and we'll see you again.
Thank you for listening. Thank you, Scott.
God bless.
God bless.